Okamoto, thank you very much for joining us in our program today. First of all, would you please explain to us the general characteristics of a bilateral free trade agreement?
Yes, to put it simply, an FTA is a preferential trade arrangement between two countries or more for the purpose of strengthening the trade relations between them. And the grounds for FTAs are found in the GATT Article 24. Well, the principle of GATT, that's the WTO, is the most favored nation treatment to all members, which means if you reduce tariffs, that reduced tariff rates should be applied to all WTO members. But FTA is allowed to be formed with some certain conditions. There are several conditions, but three most important conditions. The first one is that FTA should eliminate trade restriction in substantially all trade. The second one is that the removal of trade restrictions should be completed within a reasonable length of time, which is understood to be 10 years. And the third one is that the FTA shouldn't raise any trade barriers to third countries. And the recent characteristic of the FTAs for, say, last 10 years is that all those FTAs go beyond the free trade in just goods. Most of them tends to include trade in services and trade facilitation measures such as harmonization of customs procedures and mutual recognition of product standards and investment, government procurement, and so on and so forth. And those elements are called WTO Plus, and the agreement that includes those agreements are often called New Age FTAs or New Generation FTAs.
Japan and Singapore signed a bilateral free trade agreement in January, and this is a first for Japan. Mr. Okamoto, could you now explain what are the characteristics of this particular FTA between Japan and Singapore? What does it signify?
Yes, the agreement between Japan and Singapore belongs to the New Age category that I just mentioned. Thus, it includes the liberalization in trade in goods, of course, but also services and trade facilitation measures like custom procedures and investment, intellectual property rights, government procurement, and even it includes the cooperation in promoting e-commerce and human resource development, finance, education, and tourism, etc., etc. That's why two governments, Singapore and Japanese government, called this agreement Japan-Singapore EPA, which is Economic Partnership Agreement. They don't call it just FTAs.
This EPA, not FTA, will remove tariffs on 94% of Singapore's exports to Japan. However, tariffs of nearly 2,000 agricultural and fishery products will be excluded. What's the political background behind this condition, and what are the producers' reasons for having led the negotiators to this decision?
Yes, this is the very controversial point of Japan-Singapore FTA or EPA, whatever you call it. According to the GATT Article 24 that I mentioned, the FTA has to eliminate trade restriction in substantially all the trade between the countries. But in reality, what it means by substantially all the trade is very ambiguous, and there's no uniform understandings among the WTO members. So it seems that the Japanese government interpreted the word as to mean all sectors rather than all tariffs. So what Japan offered to Singapore in terms of agricultural products is to promise that they are not going to raise tariffs on those products which are already imported with zero tariffs from all members, not only Singapore. That those zero tariff products include some forestry products and cigarettes and some spirits. The Japanese government insists that by doing this, the Singapore FTA, Japan-Singapore EPA, covered all sectors, including agriculture. The Singapore accepted this offer from Japan because they simply didn't care about agriculture export because they don't have any strong agricultural base in the country. I guess Japanese farmers will not get hurt much even if all agricultural products were included in the Japan-Singapore EPA. But what the farmers and the Japanese government worry about is its effect on the negotiation at the WTO. The new round is going on, and that includes agricultural trade, and also the potential future FTAs with agricultural exporting countries.
Will this free trade agreement have any dramatic or a high impact on the domestic markets of both these countries?
In terms of trading goods, I do not think it will impact too much because Singapore is already duty-free city-state, and the Japanese tariffs on manufactured goods are already low. So the tariff elimination wouldn't make great impact on trade both ways. But I guess the services sector is the area to watch because some Singapore services sector are more competitive than Japanese counterparts, especially say the financial services. So the Singapore firms will have more opportunity by this agreement to operate in Japanese market.
Finally, Mr. Jiro Okamoto, how will the Japan-Singapore Free Trade Agreement influence a new phase of economic cooperation between Japan and the entire Southeast Asian region?
Yes, Prime Minister Koizumi made a tour of Southeast Asia, and in January, and after signing EPA with Singapore, he made a speech about the general direction of Japan's policy toward this area. And he said that the Japanese government would like to pursue comprehensive economic partnership in this region. But if it goes to forming FTA with ASEAN, not only Singapore, the agriculture will be the more serious problem. So Singapore was the ideal FTA partner for Japan because it is the most developed economy in this region, and plus, this is important, it didn't have any agricultural exports, but it doesn't apply to Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. So the agriculture will be tricky. And I guess it is more realistic for Japanese government to try to extend the WTO plus element of the agreement with Singapore to this region. And one thing you have to see carefully is that the development of China-ASEAN FTA, and the Japan is very worrying about the Chinese economic presence in this region. So it may force Japan to act more actively.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.